Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation of Living Experience Shaping Passport Funding. Yvonne Spicer, Nicole Flynn, and I, Theresa Somerton, will discuss the passport funding survey result. Today we will present Living Experience Shaping Passport Funding. Please note that at each section, title page will be performing a skit that we created.
The Successful Advocacy Research Group is composed of 3 women who are interested in the use of research to improve the lives of thousands of people who live with the label of intellectual disability, like us. We are supported by people who believe in our ability to be active participants in research projects.
Theresa Somerton from Belleville, Ontario, has provided deep insight to this research from her decades of lived experience and her dedication to the motto of nothing about us without us. Theresa is in the position of being a person herself who is in the application process for passport funding. Yvonne Spicer from London, Ontario, fights input from the position of a person with the lived experience of being labeled with an intellectual disability and a user of passport funding. Yvonne is in the position of being under agency control for her spending of passport dollars. Yvonne also supports her mother, who receives passport funding. My name is Nicole Flynn. I am from Central Hastings, Ontario, a rural area north of Belleville. My position is as a person who receives passport funding, but I manage the funds with the help of my parents.
On our team, we have Kathy Penrose, who assists us with the administration and organization of our work. Kathy's position is relation to passport funding and a parent caregiver for an adult who lives with intellectual disability. Megan Babiski is a student that we hire to clean the data and help us to analyze and organize the results. Megan identified as having a developmental disability. Megan was told that she is not eligible for anything from the DSO. Megan is a master's student in the development of African appliance disability at Brock University. Dr. Mullen is an academic supervisor who answers our questions and guides us in our work. Dr. Mullen is assistant professor in the Department of Appliance Disability Study at Brock University. Dr. Mullen identifies as a person with a disability and has over 20 years of experience working in the development sector.
In this section, we will talk about passport funding, what it is, and how life is supposed to be for the people who use it. On the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services website, we read that the program titled Journey to Belonging, Choice and Inclusion lays out the ministry's long-term vision for developmental services in Ontario, where people with developmental disabilities are supported to fully participate in their communities and live fulfilling lives. The page continues with the ministry heard from hundreds of people, and their message is clear. Access supports and services that are available, easier to understand, and more flexible to meet individuals' needs. As part of the Journey to Belonging, the funding initiative referred to as passport funding, a model of direct funding, is being assessed for use in Ontario. From the Community in Ontario policy snapshot, we learned that direct funding is where people who need personal and health-related supports manage their own funds and pay for supports directly. Individualized funding is where people decide how a budget dedicated to their support needs is spent, but don't necessarily manage funds directly. There are so many things out there we want to do, but the passport funding program has so many limitations.
You're right. There are so many damn problems with passport funding. Our lives are limited by their rules.
That's something. We have a lot of contacts. Let's do a survey.
Yeah, let's do a research survey ourselves.
Yes, we'll solve the ministry of the hoops we have to jump through.
We are from the University Living Experience Research by us, with us.
In 2024, Nicole, Theresa, and I created a 50-question survey on passport funding. We used agencies in Ontario and our personal contacts to send the survey electronically for people to respond. We received 410 responses from across Ontario, though you will see more people from Central Ontario, people who have white skin and live in the city, responded to the survey. Our purpose for this survey was to answer 4 questions. How is the process of applying for passport funding? How is the process of using passport funding? What are people using passport funding for? What challenges do passport funding users experience?
This slide shows a breakdown of responses and how we use them. 4 of the responses were done in less 2 minutes. So we do not include them because they didn't complete the survey and might have been robot. 18 people said they did not have an IDD and were not receiving passport funding and were not responding for a person who has an IDD. So they were not helpful to our study and we set them aside. 47 people responded for people who have an IDD. These are the people who are heard loudly, so we set them aside. The main group of 341 is a group that we wanted to hear from. They are the quiet group that people do not stop to listen to. These are the people who have a label of IDD. This is the group that we focus on in our research.
On this slide, we show who is answering for and who's answering with a person who is labeled with an intellectual or developmental disability. Some people ask the person questions and marked the answer. And this is okay because the person was included in their own responses. And some people had the support they needed to complete the survey. These are the responses we used in our discussion. The 47 people who clearly responded for someone and even made comments like, the person is unable to do it at all, were put to the side. It was very important to us that we use the responses from people who use passport funding.
This slide shows the ages of the people who responded to the survey. It is important to note that people could only select one answer. This does not show who uses passport funding. This slide shows who answered the survey. This slide shows the centers of people who responded to the survey. It is important to note that people could choose more than one answer. Again, this shows who responded to our survey. We are not able to say why one group is more or less represented in the responses.
This slide shows the background, the races, or heritage of people who respond to the survey. Please note that people could choose more than one answer, like Nicole said. We can not say why one group is represented more or less than other groups. We can only say this is who answers the question. Yvonne, can you get to do all the things? How do I get to do that too?
Theresa, let's look into how you can get funding too, so that you can do things with Nicole and me.
I've tried and tried to get information from the DSO. 3 letters later, I'm still jumping through the hoop.
Didn't you just have to do a full testing, Theresa?
Yes, they wouldn't let me take the regular classes, so I couldn't get a job. I have to prove that I can make my own decisions about healthcare, but suddenly, when it comes to funding, I have to prove that I have a disability. It doesn't make any sense. And get this, the consent form wasn't even in plain language. They didn't know how to do a test for someone who is deafblind.
It shouldn't be so difficult to get the support we need to live life like everyone else.
That's right, Nicole. Typical people don't have to go through the 5 hours of grueling, uncomfortable questions. I had so much anxiety about that test. That's when we got the agreement, it wasn't in plain language. The other thing is the funding isn't enough. I'm on some list for an increase, but in the meantime, I run out of money every year.
I'm not looking forward to that. It sounds horrible. I don't even know if I want to have passport funding. It sounds like a lot of control over my life.
In this section, we will talk about what it's like to apply for passport funding and how people use the funding. These are some of the comments that people wrote about their application process. I had passport funding, but no longer use it. When the process paperwork changed, my parents just couldn't keep up with the paperwork. Applied, but hard to get help. Too hard to find individuals to fulfill needs. I went through the reassessment and never heard from them. Had to go to the ombudsman to force reassert with no end result. The program is subjective and difficult to get answers. The responses from this question show that people are feeling frustrated and having a challenge with the application process. People had a difficult time with how the process took, finding answers to questions and finding services to help.
This slide shows where people are in the application process, and people could choose more than one response. Over 250 people said they received passport funding. About 25 said 25 are on the wait list for more money. About 20% said they have applied About 7% said they are both approved, but waiting to receive funding. About 5 said they were either assessed and waiting for results, or waiting to be assessed, or not approved, or not. Some teams said they are not clear where they are in the process, and about 7 responded with other.
This slide highlights the bar chart we just saw. This shows that people are waiting for funding even though they have been approved. This also shows that some people don't know where they are in the application process. On this slide are some quotes that people who answered with others wrote about their experience. The responses that people wrote tells us that there is some difficulty and that the process is long and confusing. These are more quotes that talks about the challenge and the amount of work that people faces in the application process. Yvonne, who decides how your passport funding is spent?
I must ask the agency. It's like I'm a child asking my parents for money. I must plead my case to them or beg. I must keep asking why. And it seems like I must act like a spoiled brat just to get what I want.
It's like the agency decides what you can and cannot do. It's not fair. It doesn't seem like you have control over your own life. Nicole, how does your funding work?
My mom and I go through the money together, and I choose the activities that I want to do. Or we go through the paperwork together so that I know how much funding I have used.
Are you ever questioned about things that you submitted?
Yes, like the time I brought down the spoons for a craft project and they said they wanted to pay. I had to send the image of my artwork and then they let me use passport funding.
Oh, wow, that sounds hard.
This section is about who is making decisions about the passport funding and how much of what the person wants to do with the money.
This slide shows which responses were chosen to answer the question about who decides how the passport money will be spent. Please note that people could choose multiple answers. This slide shows the percentages that highlight the third and fifth bars from the slide we just saw. About 9.5% said that agencies make some decisions about their funding without them, and about 23.5% said that families make some decisions about their funding without collaborating with them. This shows that for a fair number of people, some decisions about their funding get made without them. Please note that people could choose more than one answer to this question. This doesn't mean that the people were not involved in any decisions, but there were at least some decisions in which they were not involved.
This slide shows who actually approved the passport expense. The person could not choose multi-answer.
This slide shows whether people know what their passport dollars are spent on. It is important to note that people could not choose multiple answers. This slide responds to the question we wanted to know the most. Is funding actually self-directed as set out in the plan for Journey to Belonging? About 28% said they do not personally approve their passport expense because they do not see the invoice of how their passport dollars were used before it is submitted. About 7.5% said they do not know how their passport funding is spent. This shows that quite a few people do not personally sign off on the use of their passport dollars, and a smaller but significant number of people do not even know where their passport dollars go.
Welcome today. We're interviewing for a very important position, unpaid caregiver.
Ooh, sounds impressive. What's the salary range?
Sorry. Oh no, there's no pay, but the emotional reward are priceless.
Perfect. I'll just tell the hydro company I'll pay in emotional rewards.
Let's go through the job description. Hours 24/7, no vacation pay, no pension, and no coffee break.
No coffee breaks. That's fine. My coffee's always cold anyway.
What about benefits?
Unlimited stress and occasional gratitude.
I've been promoted 3 times. A nurse, a chauffeur, and a motivational speaker. Still waiting on that raise.
Do you at least get performance reviews?
Oh, yes, you're doing great. Please continue forever.
You also need a few technical degrees.
In what areas?
Education, fiscal, crisis management, and SNAP navigation.
And diplomacy. I could end world wars if snacks were involved.
So, no pay, no breaks, constant work, and people still do it out of love?
Exactly. Being an unpaid family caregiver is the hardest job you'll ever volunteer for.
That's kind of dedication deserves more than a thank you.
Maybe a policy upgrade and an app.
To every unpaid caregiver out there, you keep the world running, one cup of cold coffee at a time. In our literature review, we read about natural supports. This slide defines natural supports and why people provide support. Research shows that natural supports are important and that more money encourages better support. More money increases paid support, but it also helps with unpaid support.
We also read about globalization and neoliberalism and the impact they have on people who are labeled with an intellectual disability. Neoliberalism focuses on productivity, the ability to work for pay. This is limiting because not everyone can work, and some of us haven't received an education that leads to employment. Neoliberalism expects people to take care of themselves and not depend on the government's social services. When we read this, we were concerned because Journey to Belonging also talks about natural and unpaid support. The involvement of the family in the care and support of people. Not everyone has a family. Some families have more than one person who has a disability. Families are tired and alone, not part of the greater society. Many feel like they are on ice floes floating around, drifting, but not part of the solid land. We don't see how neoliberalism will help raise us out of an oppressive life and to belonging seems to contain neoliberal ideas.
On this slide, we can see who people depend on for support to live independently. Please note that response could choose multi-answer.
The two percentages shown here highlight the second and the first and the third bars of the previous graph. This shows that a lot of people can live independently with the help of unpaid supports. This dependency makes us question how the need for support affects the relationships and the lives of the family members and friends. The last few slides have shown how important natural supports are for people who are labeled with an intellectual disability. This slide reveals some of the comments that people shared about their natural supports. It's sad to think that families are pushed to the point of saying no more. This slide shows that the natural support that Journey to Belonging depends on sometimes have more to deal with than they can manage. Belonging assumes people have the amount of unpaid or natural support that they need, but this is not the reality. I want to go on a 1,000-island cruise on Thanksgiving, but I must get to Kingston to get on the boat.
You can do this if you go and come back in one day.
Do you mean I can't stay in Kingston?
No, you have to take the train there and back in one day.
Wow. You want us to get out there, do things, and enjoy life, but if we want to go from one part of Ontario to another, then we can't do that? It must be a day trip?
Do you have the information about the cruise?
Yes, I will send the webpage.
It says here that this is a 1,000-island Thanksgiving dinner cruise.
Yes, I don't want to be home alone for Thanksgiving. I want to be with other people and I want to see the 1,000 Islands.
Passport funding will not cover the cost of a cruise that includes a meal. The question is in this section talks about whether passport funding helps people the way that people want or needs.
This slide shows the percentage of people who responded from a rural area, a suburban area, and an urban area. We wanted to know these results because supports and needs change depending on where a person lives. For example, the transportation costs are more expensive in rural areas related to the lack of municipal transportation. There were fewer responses from a rural area, which makes us question whether these voices are heard. Perhaps more research needs to be done to find out how satisfied people who live in rural areas are with passport funding.
On this slide, quotes about questions that ask if people had ever been denied a cause they thought would be covered. These quotes show that sometimes people think something will be covered and it isn't. This leads to confusion and frustration.
Here are some more quotes that show some of the challenges people have with the funding. It seems to us that people are told they have to do things a certain way, or that certain hobbies are not real hobbies. This tells us that the people do not get to decide what they want to do. We thought Journey to Belonging supported the ability for people to make their own decisions and live fulfilling lives in the way they choose.
On this slide, we show that about 27% of the people who responded to our survey said that they had problems with finding the money to do things or waiting to be paid back. About 45% of respondents didn't know about the pre-approval form, and another 25% said they weren't sure. There are a fair number of people who have trouble waiting for money to be repaid. The pre-approval form could have helped with this, but people do not know about this form. This is shocking.
This slide shows some of the quotes that people said about what they do to cover expense while they wait to be paid back. Some people rely on their OTSP funding or money from family. Some people said they can't use the funding the way they want because they can't afford it, the costs. Now, what we have all of this information from our surveys, do you think the ministry will listen to us?
I hope so. It can feel like decision makers don't really understand what our lives are like day to day, the barriers we face, or what it feels like to be labeled and not truly seen for who we are. We're not just numbers or labels, we're people with talents, dreams, and value. We are valuable people whose lives are worth living.
Exactly. That's why sharing this information with the ministry is so important. So we want them to hear directly from people who are living this experience to really understand what it feels like to walk in our shoes. We know that what life is like and what we are going through, and we know the changes and are needed.
We're asking the ministry to work with us to move beyond old systems and create something new together. Right now, families often feel like they're floating alone, trying to stay connected without enough support. It's time for a new social contract, one that includes everyone and supports freedom, equity, and independence. We invite the ministry to see the process through our eyes, the application steps, the personal questions, the rating, and the limits placed on our choices. We believe things can be better, and we're ready to be part of that change.
We also want to know how the voices you heard today can be included in decisions about Journey to Belonging and direct or individualized funding. Theresa, Nicole, and I want to bring this information back to the people it affects most, people with lived experience. We've done research about us. Now it's time to share it with us. We're seeking ways to partner with the ministry so this knowledge reaches the people who need it, to build understanding, connection, and real impact.
We've talked about what the survey taught us and what needs to change. Now we like to share a short skit that brings those funding to life, showing what people are really experiencing with passport funding.
We surveyed 410 people across Ontario about passport funding.
Okay, tell me, how hard can it be?
Hard. Some people wait forever. Some never hear back. and some must jump through hours of questions just to prove they exist.
And 28% don't even approve their own funding. They don't see how it's spent before it's gone.
Wait, so someone else decides what you can do with your money?
Yep. Agencies, parents, even committees we've never met.
And 7.5% don't even know how their passport funding was spent.
That sounds very confusing.
One time, I put down spoons for our craft project. They said no. I had to send a picture of my artwork before they approved it.
And in rural areas, transportation costs can make it even harder.
So, will you live affects what you can actually do?
Exactly. Some people don't even know about the pre-approval form, so they pay out of pocket and wait forever to get reimbursed.
Our survey shows people want choice, independence, and control, not more hoops and confusion.
Passport funding should be self-direct, but right now, it's like playing a game where someone else makes all the rules.
Yes, some people just want to take a class or go on a cruise and they can't.
Our message to the ministry is clear. Listen to the people who live this every day.
Simplify the process, makes it fair, and give people real control over their funding.
And maybe stop making us send pictures of our spoons.
Passport funding should empower us, not confuse us. It's our money, our choices, and our lives.
Let's work together to make it easier, fairer, and actually self-direct.
Because we're the experts. We live this every day. This kit and our survey results are a glimpse of what people across Ontario are experiencing with passport funding.
These are real stories from real lives, and they remind us why change matters.
We hope this kit helped bring the survey results to life, showing both the challenge and the hopes people share with us.
Thank you for spending this time with us and listening to the voices of lived experience. We hope our presentation has helped you see passport funding from a different point of view, one that centers people and their real lives.
We believe that when we work together, people, families, and the ministry, we can build a system that truly supports freedom, equity, and belonging for everyone.
We love to hear your thoughts and questions, and thank you